Discover the incredible moment when a lonely waitress and a millionaire's unexpected whisper transforms everything. Sarah wiped the counter clean, the damp cloth dragging across the surface while her heart beating an anxious rhythm in her chest. She glanced up as the door swung open, and in walked David, sharp-dressed, confident, like he had stepped straight out of a magazine. The constant bustle of the diner faded into the background, her breath hitching as he found a seat at the corner booth. Just a few moments ago, Sarah had been waiting for the clock to tick down her shift, but now the air felt alive with possibility. With each step she took towards him, a knot of apprehension tightened in her stomach. Her tired smile was barely enough to mask the exhaustion she felt, the weight of her responsibilities at home pressing heavily on her shoulders. She poured his coffee, fingers trembling ever so slightly as she caught the sparkle in his dark eyes. "Thanks," he said, his voice low and smooth, something about it wrapping around her like a warm blanket. As she leaned in to refill his cup, he whispered, "You know, I'm in town looking to invest in the community. I could use someone with heart and grit. Do you think you'd be interested in helping out?" A flicker of hope ignited deep within her, a chance to reshape her life, maybe even lift her mother's burden for a time. But then doubt seeped in, cold and hard. Could she, a waitress, really step into something so grand? The fabled American dream felt dangerously out of reach, her heart racing as she weighed the enormity of his proposition. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she turned back to the diner, the atmosphere thickened with the mundanity of clinking dishes and idle chatter, almost mocking her moment of clarity. What would her friends think? Most of them still clung to old grudges against wealth. Could she take on this role without being labeled a traitor? The energy in her chest constricted, twisting her insides with a sense of urgency and fear. The days wore on, with her heart heavy and her mind racing, trying to reconcile her desire to step into a new life while wrestling with the potential backlash from those she loved. Should she let David in? Should she let herself dream? She parked her car outside the diner one night, rain drumming a chaotic symphony against the roof. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel, muscles tense as dread crept in. Just when she believed she had found a way forward, she overheard a conversation, whispers that cast shadows over David's intentions, painting him as a manipulator rather than a savior. Was hope a deception? Just when she thought she had a path, the murky waters pulled her under again. Resolution felt as distant as the dark clouds swirling overhead, and as she sat there, uncertainty coiling tighter in her chest. She knew that whatever choice she made could rip apart the fragile threads of her already dwindling life. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. A text flashed on the screen, its ominous presence propelling her into chaos, leaving her with a single unmistakable question. Was this the moment she had been waiting for, or the moment she would lose everything? Sarah stared at her phone, the screen illuminating her face as she hesitated to open the message. Each prolonged moment felt ethereal, like the final seconds before a whistle. At last, she pressed her thumb against the glass, revealing a text from her mother that sent chills down her spine. "We need to talk. It's urgent." Her pulse thundered in her ears. This was not the kind of distraction she needed, not now when her mind was teetering on the edge of the momentous decision ahead. She quickly typed out a reply, her fingers trembling. "What's wrong?" The response came almost instantaneously. "Please come home." A sense of dread washed over her, mixing into the torrent of possibility that swirled within her mind regarding David's offer. Before she even thought it through fully, she turned the key in the ignition and drove through the rain-slicked streets, her thoughts spiraling into a haze. What could possibly be wrong now? Had something happened to her mother? Did the buzz of opportunity with David seem like a distant fantasy in the face of impending news? Arriving home, the cramped apartment greeted her with its familiar chaos. A heap of bills spilling from the kitchen table, the faint scent of burnt spaghetti lingering in the air. Her mother sat on the couch, her usual vibrant spirit diminished into a shadow of worry. "I'm sorry to pull you away," her mother started, her voice cracking slightly. "It's about the bills. I thought I could manage." Her words trailed off, leaving a silence heavy with unspoken concerns. A storm brewed in Sarah's chest as she took a seat opposite her mother. The sheer weight of the moment pressed against her, amplifying her resolve. Her mother had always been resilient, but the strain showed in her eyes, haunted by the late-night worry crawls. "Mom, we can figure this out. Just tell me." The urgency in her voice surprised both of them, revealing the depth of her commitment to change their circumstances, to embrace that unrealized potential David had offered. "I can't keep it up, Sarah. I'm barely making it at my job," and closed in on her, thoughts frantically racing. Could she tell her mother about David's offer? The opportunity felt like a lifebuoy thrown into a turbulent sea. But revealing it would grant her mother access to those terrible whispers she feared. It felt like stepping on eggshells, a burden she wasn't sure how to bear. As she grapples with her choices, feeling cornered by her mother's worries and her own aspirations, another text pinged on her phone, pulling her back to the present. It was from David. "I hope you're all right. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss the community project. I really believe you could make a difference." The contradiction ripped through her. On one hand, the weight of family responsibilities clawed at her desires. On the other, David's faith in her was intoxicating. Was this the moment of choice she had waited for? A chance to break free from the stifling responsibility of her life? In that instant, she felt the gears shifting within her, confronting the deepest conflict of all. Would she embrace her potential at a possible cost to her relationship with her mother? The answer hid behind a veil of fear, one that had to be pierced. She took a deep breath, a plan forming in her mind. She would need to face both fears, to honor her mother while also daring to step into a life that could change everything. But just as her heart steadied with newfound determination, a knock at the door brought everything back into turmoil. Whispers of fear echoed once more. Someone was there to deliver news, and as she got up to answer, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever she was about to face might alter her path irrevocably. She pulled the door open, ready for whatever mystery lay ahead, her life dangling in the balance. What had she unearthed? Standing in the doorway, Sarah felt a chill wash over her as she looked into the expectant eyes of an unfamiliar man. He was tall, with an air of quiet authority that suggested he was used to being listened to. "Are you Sarah?" he asked, voice steady but low. She nodded, uncertain of what to expect. Before she could speak, he stepped inside, brushing past her in a manner that was both commanding and disconcerting. His presence felt overpowering, heavy with implications. "I'm sorry to barge in like this," he said, his gaze probing. "My name is Jonathan. I work with David." The mention of David sent a jolt through her. Had he sent this man to deliver news? Her heart raced as she closed the door behind him, her mind juggling the weight of her mother's concerns with the fleeting hope David had ignited within her. "Is something wrong? Why are you here?" she pressed, glancing back at her mother, who had retreated further into the shadows of the couch, still clutching her hands in worry. Jonathan cleared his throat, as if contemplating his words carefully. "David believes you have great potential, and he wants to ensure you're aware of the serious opportunities that lie ahead." "Opportunities? What does that mean?" Her voice wavered, trying to extract clarity from the fog of her tumultuous state. "This community project," he began, his tone growing more animated, "needs strong leaders, people who can think differently and inspire change. David thinks you're one of those people." Each phrase hung in the air, brushing against her aspirations and fears in equal measure. Yet all she could bring herself to think about was her mother's face, twisted in worry. I don't know if I can," she muttered, the truth of her hesitations spilling out. The magnitudes of expectations and responsibilities loomed larger as Jonathan stood before her, an unwanted reminder of the crossroads she faced. "Sarah, I understand this might feel overwhelming," he acknowledged, his voice dropping to a more intimate level. "But these moments define us. You have to ask yourself, what kind of life do you want? What are you willing to do for that life?" His question echoed in the empty spaces of her thoughts, each syllable pressuring her to confront her desires. Behind that question lay the reality of her mother's struggles, an ingrained sense of loyalty that wrestled against the seductive allure of independence and diligence that beckoned her. As if sensing her internal turmoil, Jonathan continued, "David respects those who balance ambition with integrity. You're not abandoning your mother by pursuing this. You might actually be helping. You could break the cycle you've been trapped in for so long." His words cut through her like a sharp knife, revealing layers she had buried but felt acutely. Was it truly possible that this venture could elevate them both? But what if her pursuit of more meant less attention for her mother? The intense conflict clenched at her heart, the stakes unreal. "I need time to think," she finally stated, determination rising despite the doubts gnawing at her. "Will you stay until tomorrow? I want to talk to my mother about this." Jonathan nodded, understanding illuminating his expression. "Of course, let's create a space for dialogue." With that, a plan crystallized in Sarah's mind, one that would necessitate her strongest communication skills yet, accompanied by vulnerability. She would stitch together her ambitions with her fears, weaving them into a single narrative to present to her mother. As they gathered around the old kitchen table, the weight of their conversation twisted the atmosphere, filled with muted tension and unheard fears. Would they find common ground, or would divergent paths emerge and pull them apart? With a deep breath, Sarah leaned in, ready to lay the groundwork for a discussion that could change everything. But just as she opened her lips, her phone buzzed again, a message sliding across the screen that transported her heart to another realm. "David wants to know if you're ready to join us." The ultimatum clashed rudely with the family crisis, leaving her gasping at the precipice of two lives. How could she choose? Where did her loyalty truly lie? The kitchen felt stifling, the weight of silence pressing down on her like a physical entity. Sarah's mind raced as she contemplated her next move. She glanced at her mother, whose knuckles were white against the table, tightening around a chipped coffee mug as if it were a life preserver. The rift between her ambition and her sense of familial duty yawned open before her, deeper than any she had ever faced. "Mom," Sarah began, her voice wavering, "I got a message from David. He wants to know if I'm ready to join him." The implications of that admission flared in the room, igniting unspoken fears. Her mother's eyes flickered, caught between concern and confusion. "Join him? As in leave? You don't know him, Sarah. What does he want with you?" Jonathan stepped forward, sensing the delicate atmosphere. "It's not about leaving," he asserted. "It's about potential, about growth. This could be an opportunity for Sarah to step into her own power." "Power? What do you know about power?" her mother shot back, voice tinged with a mixture of disbelief and anxiety. "You think the world cares about some waitress?" The sting of her mother's words blasted through Sarah, each syllable slicing deeper than she could bear. But beyond the hurt, a resistance began to simmer inside her. "I may be a waitress, but I have dreams just like anyone else," Sarah replied, surprising herself with the strength behind her voice. Jonathan nodded in acknowledgement, as if she had tapped into a truth he had seen all along. Exactly, and sometimes our circumstances don't define our potential. You need to recognize that, Sarah. But her mother wasn't convinced. What if you fail? What if you go and leave us behind? The vulnerability in her voice cut through the growing tension. The fear was palpable, but it also mirrored Sarah's own uncertainties. Mom, this could be a way for me to create a better life for both of us. I just need you to trust me, Sarah urged, her voice softening. She was trying to bridge the gap, to pull them both from the chasm of fear that threatened to swallow them. The statement hung in the air, each of its syllables weighing heavily as her mother sought a response. "I don't know if I can," she finally whispered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Pushing against her sinking heart, Sarah felt an unexpected fire ignite within her. It was a delicate dance of passion and trepidation. "Just look at what we faced together. I'm not abandoning you. I'm fighting for us. I want to break free of this cycle." The moment could have splintered, but instead, in that vulnerable space shared across the table, fear began to give way to understanding. Jonathan stepped back, allowing the two women to face each other, the distance between them shrinking both physically and emotionally. "I know it's risky," Sarah's voice wavered, yet her conviction surged. "But isn't it more dangerous to stay stuck?" Her mother's breath hitched, caught in a moment of realization that flickered across her face. The uncertainty of what could come next stood before them like a shadowy figure, and for the first time, Sarah didn't flinch. "Maybe this is part of the change we need," her mother murmured, the resistance draining from her tone. The realization sparked a revelation in Sarah's mind. She could make a choice that would not only be good for her, but also for her mother. The potential to rewrite their story breathed life into her aspirations, and she felt a shift, a reawakening of purpose tracing through her veins. "I can do this," she said firmly. She turned back to Jonathan with new clarity, something fierce emerging from her depths. "Tell David I'm in." Just as she spoke, an urgent knock echoed through the quiet of the house, unmistakable and jarring. Who could that be? Sarah's stomach dropped, internal chaos rising anew. But the pressure of the situation had built something resolute within her. It was time to confront whatever awaited them. Whatever was on the other side of that door could change everything. The moment of truth had arrived, and the stakes were higher than ever. The knock reverberated through Sarah's core, echoing the trepidation she felt. She exchanged a glance with Jonathan, who stepped aside, allowing her the space she needed to face whatever awaited them. Her mother's anxious eyes flitted toward the door, filled with concern and lingering apprehension. Taking a deep breath, Sarah squared her shoulders, an instinctual grit replacing the lingering doubt. She could not let fear dictate her choices anymore. With each step toward the door, the heat of the kitchen faded, replaced by a rush of adrenaline that tingled in her fingertips. It was a tangible reminder of the autonomy she was striving for. She could feel the weight of her realizations, and they propelled her forward. When she opened the door, it swung wide to reveal a tall figure outside, a man in a tailored suit with an air of confidence that filled the doorway. He was distinctly unlike anyone she had encountered within her world of waitressing. This was David, the man whose name had ignited both ambition and fear. "Sarah," he greeted, his voice dripping with an easy charm. "I hope you don't mind my sudden visit. I had to see you in person." Before she could form a response, he stepped inside, his presence expanding in the small kitchen. The warmth of the room morphed into a palpable tension that infused her with both excitement and anxiety. She caught a glimpse of her mother's startled expression as David's gaze swept past her shoulders, assessing the environment as if it were a reflection of Sarah herself. "Do you have a moment?" he continued, undeterred by the uncertainty swirling around them. "Of course," Sarah responded, her voice steadying through sheer will as she grappled with the surreal nature of this interaction. She motioned for him to sit, her heart thumping like a drum against her ribs. It felt like a pivotal point. All her previous experiences as a waitress had led to this moment where her dreams and reality collided. David slid into a chair, leaning forward with genuine interest. "I want you to understand how much potential I see in you, Sarah. The qualities you possess could be the key to something remarkable." His eyes held an intensity that overpowered her initial apprehension, and she realized that here was someone who recognized her worth. Yet the question lingered. Why? Why had he chosen her? She felt a flicker of awareness that this was both an opportunity and a strategic risk. "What might you have in mind?" For the first time, David's relaxed demeanor tightened, revealing a glimpse of the pressure he must have felt. "I can help you reach heights you've only dreamed of. It won't be easy, but I believe you're capable. You need to step into your power fully." His words, even more than his presence, pierced through her veils of self-doubt. If someone like David could believe in her potential, maybe she could too. Yet the weight of responsibility immediately crashed in. Could she handle it? Was she ready to embrace a journey that intertwined her dreams with a stranger's vision? "Your life here, as much as you love your family, will keep you tethered," he continued. "You have unique gifts that deserve to be explored. I want to show you—" "Show me?" Sarah interjected, suddenly overwhelmed. The contours of her life, the waitress uniform, late shifts, and small-town expectations collided with the vision David described. It was a fork in the road, and the path ahead was foggy. "It's not just a job," he clarified, sensing her hesitancy. "This is about carving out a legacy, finding a purpose. You're capable of transforming your narrative." Her thoughts raced, and the excitement of reaching for something grand was nearly intoxicating. But beneath it lay a deep-rooted fear. Would she leave her mother behind? Was the risk worth the potential loss? "Sarah, listen," David continued, his eyes locking onto hers with assuredness. "You decide what your story should be. Will you let me help you write it?" The room fell silent, the weight of the choice pressing heavily on her, balancing on a precarious precipice of aspiration and obligation. "Give me your answer soon," he finally said, standing as if to leave an opening for retreat. "I wouldn't want you to miss a chance that could change everything." Just as he stepped back, ready to depart, the promise of a transformation hung in the air like a challenge, threatening to tip the delicate balance she'd fought so hard to maintain. And as the door closed behind him, Sarah stood frozen, the world suddenly brimming with possibilities and peril. Would she embrace this journey, even if it meant stepping away from everything she knew? The time had come to decide, and the choice would echo beyond her for years to come. The silence lingered in the kitchen as Sarah registered the weight of uncertainty. A storm of emotions swirled within her. This meeting should have brought her clarity, yet the sheer magnitude of the choice before her left her even more disoriented. David had laid out a vision of potential that felt thrilling yet suffocating. She turned to her mother, whose unease mirrored her own. "What do you think?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother's weary eyes searched Sarah's, probing for conviction. "I think it's your decision," her mother replied, gathering the strength to encourage. "You have to decide what you want and where you see yourself. Not everyone gets such an opportunity." Sarah nodded, understanding the sentiment, but still wrestling with doubt. She had spent most of her life observing others' paths. This sudden shift felt alien, like standing on the edge of a cliff. Did she have the courage to leap? As the evening progressed, Sarah busied herself with mundane tasks, allowing her mind to wander. The clattering dishes seemed to echo David's promise: legacy, purpose, transformation. Each word stirred an ember of ambition deep within. But what did it mean to carve a legacy? Could she really embrace an identity beyond the waitress uniform she had worn for years? The notion flickered tantalizingly, yet was drenched in uncertainty. She tried to explore the idea, visualizing herself stepping into a different world, moving through spaces filled with high-stakes conversations, surrounded by people who spoke her ambition into existence. However, the image splintered when the specter of her family's dependency loomed large. Could she pursue something brighter, even if it threatened the cohesion they had maintained? She initially thought so, but the weight of obligation began to anchor her ambitions. Underneath the kitchen lights, she felt the familiar tug of the familiar, the laughter shared over dinner, the routine of waking up to face the same day. The thought of leaving that behind shattered the mirror of possibility David had held up. She was tethered to her life by love and loyalty, but she sensed an undercurrent of resentment building. As Sarah leaned against the countertop, her internal debates raged. Was she denying herself because of fear, or was she being practical about potential risks? She had never been reckless. The waitressing world had taught her about responsibility. David's call to rise seemed absurd against the humble backdrop of her life choices. Did she dare to defy the life she had been conditioned to lead? That night, sleep eluded her as her mind juggled dichotomy: stability versus ambition, comfort versus growth. Each iteration felt life or death. Instead of dreaming, she lay awake, scrutinizing herself in the dark. Morning crept in, washing the room in gray light. She rose early, drawn to the comforting scent of coffee. She poured a cup, hoping the bitter warmth would ground her, provide clarity. As she rotated the mug in her hands, she recalled David's parting words: "You decide what your story should be." Could she script a new chapter? As she stared out the window, she saw the world outside moving, an invisible current pulling people toward their futures. Inclined to take the leap, her heart raced with the thrill of possibilities unlocking. But her resolve wavered with the replay of her mother's expression, the fearfulness of a parent losing their child. It was time to confront her choice head-on. Inspiration flickered. Perhaps she could blend her existing life with the new. Was there a way to uplift her mother while pursuing her own dreams? Determined, Sarah reached for her phone, scrolling through the number David had given her. This was no longer just about her. It was about rewriting their narrative as a family. But a stirring sense of urgency gripped her, merging excitement with trepidation. The decision loomed over her like an unfinished puzzle, and just as she steeled herself to dial, her thoughts scattered. What if she crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed? As the phone hovered above the screen, the weight of the moment thickened, hinting at whatever she chose would forge a new path not only for her, but for those who relied on her. Determination flashed through her, but so did uncertainty. She inhaled, steadied her hand, and turned the number over in her mind, ready to unravel the next chapter of her life. And yet, deep down, another question bubbled up, simmering just beneath her resolve. Was it too late to gather all her parts together before she stepped into the unknown? Before she could resolve her inner turmoil, a text from David lit up her screen, sending a jolt of urgency coursing through her. "Have you made a decision, Sarah? The clock is ticking." With a pounding heart, she realized that now was the time to confront her limits or risk letting an opportunity slip away. Would her future be defined by the choices she feared to make? Sarah's hand trembled slightly as she hovered over the screen, the moment straddling the line between her past and an uncertain future. David's text loomed larger than life, challenging her comfort zone. The buzzing in her chest screamed that the opportunity to change everything was just a call away. With every shaky breath, she flipped through her mental landscape. The images of late nights spent tending tables replayed like a worn movie reel. Each laugh of a diner, each shared story with her coworkers, and each moment trapped in that metallic uniform filled with the scent of coffee and the promise of tips. Would saying yes to David erase these memories? No, she realized. They were hers forever, woven into the fabric of who she was. Yet, beneath the reverie lay her ambition, a quiet ember smoldering beneath the surface, urging her to ignite it into a flame. That spark tugged at her, whispering of possibilities and a profoundly different life. Was it really as simple as diving into the abyss? Could she take the plunge without losing herself in the depths of obligation and familial love? Determined to find her footing, she finally tapped David's number. The phone rang, resonating in the cocoon of her kitchen, each chime echoing her heartbeat. "Sarah?" His deep voice filled the line, both familiar and foreign. It startled her, a reminder of the choice she was poised to make. "Have you thought about our conversation?" "Yes," she managed, feeling the gravity in her own admission. "I've been thinking about it all night." The words left her mouth easily, yet their weight hung heavily in the air. "You have a unique opportunity, Sarah. The question is, do you want it?" His candor locked her in place. She hesitated. "What if I leave behind everything I know, my family, my life? It feels like I would be abandoning them." Or could you be embracing a chance to be more? To uplift not only yourself, but those around you? You have that power. He spoke with a conviction that made her pulse quicken. Hearing David's words ignited a flame within her, but fear snuffed it just as quickly. "But what if I fail?" Failure is a stepping stone, isn't it? It's not the fall that defines you, but how you rise from it. His words were a mirror reflecting her doubts. She realized that in traversing the delicate balance between comfort and ambition, she had been constructing fears around failure that didn't truly exist, at least not in the way she imagined. Perhaps this was the moment she had been waiting for, the pivotal turn where she confronted her insecurities rather than let them dictate her choices. "I want to do this, David," she said, surprising even herself with the ferocity behind her voice. "But I need to do it while being there for my family. Can I make it work?" "Absolutely," he replied with a steady reassurance. "We can build this together, and you don't have to leave them behind. Strength doesn't always mean severing ties. Sometimes it means lifting others as you rise." His confidence fueled her resolve. A swell of determination pulsed through her, merging with her ambition, infusing her with courage she hadn't realized she possessed. "I'll come to see you," she finally declared. "Let's talk about how to move forward." "Excellent! Let's meet at the cafe I mentioned. I look forward to it, Sarah." The urgency in his tone felt like an electric current, and as she hung up, a smile broke across her face. For the first time, the weight on her shoulders transformed into a sense of possibility. She felt empowered, ready to shuffle the pieces of her life into something more. But as she prepared for the meeting, doubt began to whisper again, prodding at her resolve. Would her family truly understand her decision? What if they resisted her ambitions, seeing her changes as betrayal? The budding excitement now teetered on the edge of fear, threatening to unravel the progress she had just made. She knew this next step wouldn't just impact her, it would reverberate through her entire family's dynamic. As she brewed her morning coffee, the steam swirling upwards felt like the competing currents of her life, taken both by warmth and uncertainty. Every moment from here on would be key. She would need to navigate her family's reactions with care. It was time to bridge the worlds she inhabited, but could she weave a narrative that sparked understanding instead of division? Just as she finished her coffee, her phone chimed again. A message from her mother seemed to come at the right moment. "Can we talk later? I need to discuss something important." A sense of foreboding mixed with a flicker of hope washed over her. Would this conversation upend everything she had worked to build? The complexity of balancing ambition and loyalty loomed heavily, as she sensed the tide pulling her, one direction promising freedom, the other promising stability. Sarah found herself teetering on the edge again, wondering if she could truly embrace the future she longed for while honoring her past. Sarah paced her kitchen, the sound of her footsteps echoing against the tiled floor, each step punctuated by the thudding pulse of her heart. The vibrant aroma of freshly brewed coffee was almost comforting, yet it did little to quell the brewing storm within her. She was at war with herself, caught between the desire for a new path and the weight of familial loyalty pressing down like a heavy blanket. She felt a familiar itch to reach out to David, to confirm her commitment and regain that newfound sense of empowerment he'd ignited. Instead, the message from her mother nibbled at her resolve. What could it be? Was it a call for her not to chase her dreams? As she quickly skimmed through her mental scripts, she found herself rehearsing possible outcomes, each scenario seeming more dire than the last. Determined not to panic, she inhaled deeply and decided to focus on the day ahead. Perhaps she could explore her ambitions and handle her family's expectations simultaneously. Wouldn't that be the true test of her growth? As she continued to prepare for her meeting with David, she brainstormed strategies to reassure her family that her aspirations didn't mean an abandonment of them. After a quick shower, she stood in front of the mirror examining the reflection staring back. Who was she trying to become? The waitress who took pride in her work yet yearned for more? Or the emerging entrepreneur ready to carve her own destiny? The tension danced in her chest, an amalgamation of nerves and excitement, compelling her to own her identity fully. Arriving at the cafe, the soft murmur of conversations enveloped her, yet the ambiance couldn't drown out the thoughts racing through her mind. How would she explain her ambitions? Would her family support her? Or would they perceive her aspirations as a betrayal? Moments later, David entered, a reassuring presence amidst her inner turmoil. He spotted her immediately and offered a warm smile that soothed her frayed nerves. "Glad you could make it," he said as he settled across the table, his gaze steady, inviting. "I appreciate you meeting with me," she replied, leaning slightly forward, desperate for guidance. "I've had a lot on my mind, about everything." "Let's dig into it. What's weighing on you?" His interest felt genuine, prodding her to unearth her buried thoughts. Sarah hesitated. The anxiety knotted in her stomach urged her to tread carefully. "It's just my family. They're everything to me. What if they don't understand? What if they think I'm selfish for wanting more?" David nodded, his expression grave but sympathetic. "Valid concerns, but remember, this is your life. You can elevate yourself without diminishing your family ties. You have to be the bridge between your aspirations and their understanding." His words struck a chord, but insecurities rallied against them. "It feels impossible. I'm so afraid of them not supporting me. What if they resist? Maybe I'm meant to stay where I am." "Or maybe you're meant to show them the strength and ambition," he suggested softly, yet emphatically. "You have the power to inspire them through your journey. It might be hard, but it can lead to growth for all of you." An awareness prickled at her. It was sound advice, yet she couldn't shake the doubt rooted deeply in her mind. "Have you confronted any of these concerns yet?" he urged, eyes narrowing slightly, as if seeing through her hesitation. "No, not yet," she admitted, the words tumbling out before she could suppress them. "I've avoided it, convinced myself I could make progress without facing them, but now it feels inevitable." "Then that's where we begin," David replied, leaning back in his seat with confidence radiating from him. Begin preparing for that conversation with them. The journey forward doesn't exclude your past. Both can coexist. As the weight of his implication dawned on her, she felt a flicker of hope, yet another squall of apprehension stormed through her. Could she genuinely balance the dichotomy of her life? By the time their conversation shifted into articulating specific goals and strategies, Sarah's thoughts replayed his earlier guidance. Each realization she had was a dual-edged sword. It cut away some of her fears while also unveiling the emotional complexity of her family's potential reactions. As they delved deeper into her plans, her phone buzzed again with a reminder of her mother's earlier text. It felt omnipresent, hovering over her like a dark cloud, missing moment to unleash its storm. Finishing her espresso, Sarah absently traced her fingers around the cup. The day's journey awaited, a confrontation she had long postponed, and it loomed like a giant shadow. How would she blend the aspirations that stirred her soul with the expectations her family held dear? Perhaps today's conversation would indicate the bridge. If she could embrace the challenges ahead, could she really transform her latent ambitions into something tangible? Adrenaline surged in her veins as she made a decision. She would call her mother after this meeting. All she needed was one honest conversation and the courage to stand firm in her choices. As she faced David, a newfound resolve began to bloom. Was today the day she truly began constructing her bridge? Just as she settled into that determination, her phone chimed again. With a sinking feeling, she glanced down and read the message. "Please come home. We need to talk about something serious." The walls around her ambitions felt like they were closing in. Would this conversation signal a turning point or threaten to derail everything she had started to build? The cafe buzzed around Sarah as she gathered her resolve. But the clamor felt muffled, distant. Her heart pulsed with anxiety, contrasting sharply with the quiet confidence that David had inspired. It was a fickle alliance. Security in aspiration battled against the shadow of uncertainty looming on the horizon. When she walked out of the cafe, the sun was bright, illuminating the streets and lending them an almost surreal quality. As she navigated the familiar route home, her mind swung between two contradictory forces, ambition and apprehension. She could not ignore the impending conversation, its gravity pulling her down into an abyss of doubts. What if this was the moment she unlatched the door to her growth, only to discover her family unwilling to step through? Her thoughts spiraled. Maybe they'd see her dreams as grand illusions, reshaping her into someone unrecognizable in their eyes. Perhaps they won't understand the fear and frustration that churned inside her. They could just see this as a betrayal. Yet, the thought of continuing to live in the shadows of her own desires felt unbearable. Each step toward home was also a mindful progression toward that pivotal conversation, one which could either liberate her or tether her to expectations she fought to redefine. Pulling the door open, she felt the cool air of the house rush to greet her, a stark contrast to the warmth outside. The normalcy of the living room, adorned with family photographs and cluttered with memory-laden artifacts, gave her a momentary comfort. "Sarah!" Her mother's voice broke through her thoughts, tension infusing those syllables. Sarah could feel each word grasping at her, yet she held on to the idea of embodying confidence amidst the storm. Her mother stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, the familiar stance emitting a mix of authority and concern. "You're home. We need to talk." The air became static between them, heavier than ever before. Sarah swallowed hard, reminding herself of David's encouragement to stand firm. "About what?" she asked, deliberately using a calm tone, though her heart thudded intensely in her chest. Her mother exhaled deeply, her face etched with lines of worry. "Your father and I have noticed you seem different lately. You're always busy, and we're worried you're pushing us away. Is it about work or something else?" The question hung over them, stimulating a tumult of emotions in Sarah. This was the moment she had risked everything to reach, yet her trepidation sat heavy in the pit of her stomach. "Actually, it's because I'm starting to—" "Listen, honey," her mother interrupted, unable to hide the tremor in her voice. "Before you say anything else, just know that we love you. But chasing these dreams, is it really worth it? What about stability, practicality?" There it was, the threshold she had anticipated. These traditional ideals, intrinsic to her family, clashed with the burgeoning hope that had begun to take root inside her. With every instinct urging her to soften the blow, a flicker of resolve ignited within. "Mom," she began, feeling the words form a lifeline. "I've been thinking about my life and what kind of future I want. I want to do more than just get by. I want to build something of my own." She watched her mother's expression shift, the concern morphing into bewilderment. "But you're good at what you do. Can't you just stick with it and be happy?" "Happy isn't enough for me anymore," Sarah replied, each word treading deeper into the terrain of her truth. "I want to challenge myself, to find purpose beyond what I've known. I need you to understand that this isn't about leaving you behind. It's about embracing my potential." Her mother opened her mouth, the reaction teetering between acceptance and disbelief. "But what about this family? What will we do if you take that leap?" The familiar anxiety began brewing again, but Sarah stood firm, no longer bound by doubt. "I'm not abandoning you. I want to grow, and I want you to be part of this journey. I believe it can broaden our horizons, not just mine." A silence fell, dense and heavy, infused with every ounce of their shared history. Would her mother see this as an opportunity for connection, or would it cement the gap they had both feared? Just as uncertainty threatened to envelop the moment, Sarah heard a soft sigh escape her mother's lips. "Maybe this is something we can discuss together." The tentative bridge had been constructed, yet it felt fragile, still susceptible to tremors. Hope tinged in the air, but it mixed with an underlying anxiety. Was this conversation truly a stepping stone, or merely the beginning of a tumultuous road ahead? As they began to speak again, Sarah's phone buzzed, a reminder of her preceding conversation. She instinctively glanced at the screen and froze. The message read, "This may affect your future plans. Call me when you can." The words struck her like a thunderclap, threatening the fragile ground she was stepping onto with her family. What did this mean? How deeply intertwined were her ambitions with the unforeseen consequences leaning against her veil of dreams? The weight of Sarah's phone message felt like a stone on her chest, urging her to respond, yet demanding an answer she was not prepared to give. Her mother's face betrayed a mixture of concern and curiosity, and Sarah sensed the delicate balance of their conversation teetering on the precipice of revelation. "Sarah, what's wrong? You look pale," her mother observed, worry creeping into her voice. The urge to shield her mother from additional anxiety surged within her, yet the urgency to address the opportunity David represented clawed at her. It's nothing, just work stuff," she deflected, though her tone lacked conviction. "Your work stuff is what we were just discussing. It matters." Sarah inhaled deeply, feeling the air fill her lungs with the courage she needed. She realized this moment was no longer just about her, it was about fostering understanding and forging a connection that had become frayed over the years. She had to trust that her choices could strengthen their bond rather than sever it. "Mom, I'm serious about wanting more. I got this incredible opportunity with David," she finally revealed, her voice steadied by conviction. "He believes I can lead a community project that can change lives. My life. I'm excited about it, but I don't want you to think I'm leaving you behind. I want you to be part of this." Her mother's brows knitted together. "A community project? With a wealthy man? Have you thought this through? You don't really know him." "I know this sounds crazy, but it feels right. David sees something in me, Mom, something I've barely begun to understand myself. This is my chance to create something truly meaningful." As the words spilled from her lips, she realized she had taken the first step toward authenticity. She had honored her ambitions without losing sight of her roots. A moment lingered between them, pregnant with tension, before her mother spoke again, her voice trembling. "I don't know, Sarah. It feels risky. What if you get hurt? What if something goes wrong and you're left alone?" "I will never be alone. You're my family, and I want you to be part of this journey. I want to change our lives together," she asserted gently but firmly. "We can't stay stagnant out of fear. Life is meant to be lived fully." A flicker of uncertainty still clouded her mother's eyes, but for the first time, Sarah saw a glimmer of understanding emerging. "I want you to be happy, Sarah. I just worry. More than I've ever needed to admit. But I can't hold you back either." In that moment, they were both standing at the crossroads of their feelings, a fusion of shared love and uncharted aspirations. As the weight of their conversation hung in the air, Sarah's phone buzzed again, this time with a reminder about her meeting with David. The gravity of her familial loyalty and her rising ambitions collided, but she felt a newfound strength surge within as she grasped the opportunity. "Can we take this step together? Can we talk about my plans and what it might mean for both of us?" she offered, her heart pounding with hope. "I think we can." Her mother's voice softened, an echo of acceptance and eagerness finally breaking through their previous tower of fear. The tentative truce formed a fragile bond, yet it radiated with potential. As they spoke and unraveled plans for her future, Sarah envisioned a life woven with purpose, one that embraced both family and aspirations. From then on, David would not only be a stranger, a business partner, but a doorway to the opportunities that stretched beyond her immediate horizon. She breathed deeply, envisioning how this journey would reshape their lives. The next day, she met David again, armed with the discussions she had with her mother. "You were right," she said candidly. "I'm not looking to leave my family behind. I want them to come with me." His eyes danced with wisdom and recognition. "Exactly. That's the essence of leadership, honoring where you come from while paving the path ahead. Your journey isn't about solitude, it's about connection, empowerment, and inspiration." As they discussed the project, Sarah felt the gears turning within her. She had found her voice, a validation of her capabilities, and something greater emerged from the collaboration with her own dream and her family's support. By the weeks that followed, Sarah cemented her role with David in the community, blending her newfound responsibilities with familial ties, proving that ambition and love were not opposing forces. They could coexist, just as the fire of her dreams could become a beacon for her family's resilience. In time, the dynamics in her household shifted, with conversations about ambition taking root next to routine discussions over dinner. Through open dialogue, Sarah elevated her family's dreams alongside her own, illustrating the beautiful nuances of balance. She conquered her fears and transformed them into fuel for a profound journey, one that came to fruition as she launched a successful initiative, drawing upon the support from her community and her family. "Together, we can change not just our lives, but those around us," she declared to her mother on a sunny afternoon, standing amid the gathering crowds and newfound friendships that surrounded them. Her mother's eyes shone with pride as she beamed at her daughter, a woman who had embraced her potential and galvanized love into ambition. Sarah had transformed not only her circumstances, but crafted a legacy for them both, an echo resonating through their shared history. "Let's see what we can achieve together," Sarah said, knowing that as long as they remained united, they could navigate whatever came next. And ultimately, the realization crystallized within her. She had achieved not just personal aspirations, but had woven a path that encouraged family, connection, and love, fostering an unyielding sense of self and purpose that would carry them through every storm. So, with a full heart and solid confidence, Sarah stepped boldly into the future, where dreams entwined with destiny, an affirmation of all the lives she could uplift. Owning her own. The journey had only just begun. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It makes a real difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's hear your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.